Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. Nitin Gadkari and Shivraj Singh Chouhan has been sacked from the Bharatiya Janata Party Parliamentary Board. This is big news. Let's deep dive into this. Let's find out why and let us understand what is this Parliamentary Board, what it does and all of that. So let's get right into the show. Okay, so like I said, let us first understand what is a Parliamentary Board in Bharatiya Janata Party. Now, Parliamentary Board is the most important group, most important board in the Bharatiya Janata Party. It controls the entire party. So, it's the most powerful board. That's what Parliamentary Board in Bharatiya Janata Party is. Normally, they have the presidents, that is the current president of the Bharatiya Janata Party, and also the former president in the board. That is how they normally do. Now, let us understand this. In 2014, this board had 12 members. Normally, this board is supposed to have 11 members, but in 2014, this board had 12 members, and from 2014 to 2022, this board has not been changed. There has not been changes in this board, though a lot of people in this board have been deceased, and a lot of people also went in as vice president. I'll get to that. So, while people have gone out of the board, but the board was not being changed. Now, in 2014, the board, the parliamentary board looked something like this. We had JP Nadda, we had Narendra Modi, we had Amit Shah, we had Rajnath Singh, we had BL Santosh. BL Santosh is the organization general secretary. We had Nitin Gadkari, we had Shivraj Singh Chouhan, we had Arun Jaitley, who passed away. We had Sushma Swaraj, who passed away. We had Anant Kumar, who passed away. We had Venkaiah Naidu, who later on went on to become the Vice President of India. We had Tawar Chand Gehlot, who later on went on to become the Governor of Karnataka. So, this was the 12-member board. Now, while people passed away, some people went on to become vice presidents and governors, the board was not changed. The board still continued. Whoever the balance was still there on the board, and the board continued as is. In 2022, that is now 2 days back, this board, there were some inclusions and there were some exclusions. Now, the inclusions, I'll tell you what the inclusions were. The board continues to include JP Nadda, 1, Narendra Modi 2, Amit Shah 3, Rajnath Singh 4, BL Santosh 5. The board continues to retain them. Nitin Gadkari sacked. Shivraj Singh Chouhan excluded. So, these two people were removed. And Sudha Yadav was brought into the board. Sarbananda Sonowal was the former Chief Minister of Assam, brought into the board. Also, a very, very impactful leader among the tribals. He was brought into the board. B.S. Yediyurappa. Now, this is something that we will talk about. B.S. Yediyurappa, former Chief Minister of Karnataka, brought into the board. Mind you, B.S. Yediyurappa brought into the board. Technically speaking, according to whatever was said, B.S. Yediyurappa now should be in the Margadarshak committee, because he is above 75. So, he technically should be in the Margadarshak committee. But somehow, he was brought into the board. We'll discuss about this. And then K. Lakshman, chief of the OBC Morcha, brought into the board, and Iqbal Singh Lalpura. Iqbal Singh Lalpura, I think, to the best of my knowledge, was the first Sikh that was brought into the board. So, this is the new board now. This is the new board. So, Nitin Gadkari gone, Shivraj Singh gone, like I said, Arun Jaitley, Sushma Swaraj deceased, Anant Kumar deceased, Venkaiah Naidu became the vice president, now he's gone, he retired as a vice president too, Tawar Chand Gehlot gone. So, in lieu of this, 5 more people were inducted. Okay, now let's talk about a few names that were excluded. You see, I always believe that one thing about Bharatiya Janata Party is Bharatiya Janata Party does not think of tomorrow. It always thinks of day after tomorrow. The party is, the party, like everybody says, is always in election mode, but it is also a party that strategizes very, very well. Two competitions or one definite competition that surfaced in 2019, if you remember, for Modi was Gadkari. Now, Gadkari went on saying that, listen, I am no competition, I have never been, Modi is a undisputed leader and all of that, but there were a lot of stories, there were a lot of statements, acts that were seen as Gadkari starting or trying to be a competition to Modi's leadership. Gadkari gone. The second is Shivraj Singh Chouhan, senior leader, Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, also seen as somebody who could replace Modi. Now, whether he can or not is a different issue, but always seen as somebody senior enough who could replace Modi. Gone. So, technically speaking, now the parliamentary board are people who are completely in line with Modi's leadership. Every person now is in line or has accepted the ultimate leadership of Mr. Narendra Modi and Amit Shah. This is how the biggest, the most important, most powerful body of Bharatiya Janata Party looks. That's the first point I wanted to make. So the inclusion was not all that surprising, but the exclusion was pretty surprising. That is of Nitin Gadkari and of Shivraj Singh Chouhan. ठीक है ना? Okay. Now let us get into B.S. Yediyurappa. See, B.S. Yediyurappa speaks about a possible mistake that the Bharatiya Janata Party made by making Basavaraj Bommai the Chief Minister of Karnataka. Under Basavaraj's leadership, Karnataka, which was called the 10%, Bharatiya Janata Party used to call the Congress government 10% government in Karnataka. Now, that 10% government now has become 40% government, because that is what people say, that, the corruption in Karnataka has increased significantly. Basavaraj Bommai doesn't look like a chief minister who could possibly get Bharatiya Janata Party victory that they want in Karnataka. The only South Indian state where they still dominate. Basavaraj Bommai doesn't look like. So therefore, somewhere down the line, though Yediyurappa was not very favorable of Narendra Modi in the beginning of his term, has now been bought in. I think Yediyurappa realized after he was shunted so badly that he has to align with Modi. Modi has also compromised on Yediyurappa, saying that end of the day, Yediyurappa could possibly prove to be a better leader to lead BJP in the state elections in Karnataka rather than Bommai. So that is the significance of Yediyurappa being brought into the parliamentary board. So this is how the parliamentary board looks. So Sudha Yadav is the only woman in the parliamentary board. Actually, before also there was only Sushma Swaraj who was the only woman in the parliamentary board in 2014. This time around it is Sudha Yadav, and rest everybody has their own significance, and these are the people who have now come in and who are going to function as the people who control Bharatiya Janata Party. Now, there was another board that was re-gigged and presented yesterday, and that board was the Central Election Committee. Now, the Central Election Committee is also a very, very important board. Why is it important? Because this committee decides on all the election strategy. This committee decides on tickets, candidates who are going to stand for election. This committee also has a very important, very major say, supposed to have very major say in alliance and so on and so forth. So this committee also was re-gigged, and a new set of names were included, and the new set of names were, the most significant of them was Devendra Fadnavis, Maharashtra. We all know Devendra Fadnavis, who was almost certain to be the chief minister of Maharashtra once the government fell and once BJP supported the rebel Shiv Sena team and formed the government. He was supposed to be the chief minister. Last minute, he was not made the chief minister. Also, the fact that he was forced, as it is said, to be the deputy chief minister of Maharashtra under Eknath Shinde. Now, with all that, I think he has been rewarded by getting him into the Central Election Committee. He was rewarded. So now the Central Election Committee, just for your information, also has 15 members, which is the 11 members of the Parliamentary Board, and over and above that, you have people like Bhupendra Singh, you have people like Devendra Fadnavis, like I told you, Om Mathur and Vanati Srinivas. So these are the other 4 people more over and above the Parliamentary Board who are in the Central Election Committee. So this is what it is. So in the Central Election Committee, they have rewarded Devendra Fadnavis, and in the Parliamentary Board, they have, I will not call punished, but they have cut to size Nitin Gadkari and Shivraj Singh Chouhan. This is the story of Bharatiya Janata Party, and I think every step that has been taken by Bharatiya Janata Party has been taken looking at 2024 election in mind and looking at the clear, undisputed leadership of Mr. Narendra Modi and Amit Shah into mind. That's the story of this inclusion and exclusion. Till I meet you next time, that is tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Namaskar.